In the 1940s, a loosely organized group of youth came together, opposing Hitler and his strict regimentation. They were named after a flower belonging to the daisy and sunflower family and wanted peace. They didn't want fights or to be controlled by the Nazi regime. They wanted to hang out with their friends and play their guitars. They were Germany's hippie, but they had to step in and try and make a difference. The Nazis made an example out of them by bombing their houses, public execution, and torture so that other teens wouldn't rebel. In the 1940s, a loosely organized group of youth came together opposing Hitler and his strict regimentation. They were named after a flower belonging to the daisy and sunflower family, and wanted peace. They didn't want fights or to be controlled by the Nazi regime. They wanted to hang out with their friends and play their guitar. They were Germany's hippie, but they had to step in and try and make a difference. The Nazis made an example out of them by bombing their houses, public execution, and torture so other teens wouldn't rebel.
This group was known as the Edelweiss Pirates. They emerged out of Western Germany from the German youth movement in the late 1930s. The Edelweiss Pirates offered a glimmer of hope and peace amidst a hateful and totalitarian nation.
The pirates were aged from 14 to 17, and when turned 18, they were forced to go fight in the war. The group began forming in 1936 to 1939, the same year World War II was beginning.
Eternal War on the Hitler Youth, a quote from the Edelweiss Pirates. The pirates would not back down or give up on their opposition to the Nazi regime.
The Edelweiss Pirates were a stark contrast to the Hitler Youth and challenged them. They were against everything the Hitler Youth stood for. They wore their hair down and loose, while the youth had their hair up and tight.
The Hitler Youth was indoctrinated into Nazi ideology at as young as 6 years old. They were segregated by gender, while the pirates engaged in sexual activity.
The pirates wore checkered shirts and lederhosen and listened to Jewish musicians, while the Hitler Youth wore uniforms and listened to propaganda music.
Members of the Edelweiss Pirates defied restrictions on movement by going on hiking and camping trips. Over 5,000 youth members in total made up their group.
Usually, the pirates meet at a cafe on Kings Avenue and have the meetings in the pool room on what they wanted to do to the Hitler Youth next. They would do things such as steal equipment from the Hitler Youth. The Edelweiss Pirates were one of the largest youth groups who refused to participate in the Nazi youth activities. They would face the death penalty or 1 year to life imprisonment if caught defiant.
Walter Meyer, a former pirate, remembers pouring sugar in the gas tank of Nazi officers' cars, throwing bricks through the windows of munition factories, and graffitiing things such as "Down with Hitler, down with Nazi brutality." Brutal punishment, head shavings, torturous prison sentencing, and even public hanging were punishments of the Edelweiss Pirates, which they took at the cost of refusing to abide by Hitler's law. Their open rejection of the Nazi regime gave an example of why protest is important and provided hope that people would come together and overthrow injustice. The Gestapo publicly hung 13 people, 6 of them being pirates, for the accusation of planning an attack on local Gestapo headquarters.
The Edelweiss Pirates provided help and acceptance to all people, including Jews, who were heavily persecuted at the time, creating a narrow yet strong path towards equality for Jews. Additionally, the group proved that artistic expression is a form of peace that can be a useful weapon of rebellion against injustice through their music and writing. Usually,
The Edelweiss Pirates were from families belonging to the middle class and were anti-political to a degree. The peaceful efforts of the Edelweiss Pirates contrasted the strict and totalitarian regime of Nazi Germany, and their open rejection of the Nazi regime created hope that Germany's citizens would one day all be equal.